The canyon saved them. Barely. Dohyun and Nari ran for 2 hours before finding shelter in a cave system he'd mapped during his surveys. The entrance was hidden behind fallen rocks and the caves went deep into the canyon walls. It wasn't perfect, but it would hide them from orbital scans. Nari collapsed as soon as they were inside. She was still weak from her ordeal, and the run had exhausted her completely. Dohyun gave her water and the last of his protein bars. "We need to keep moving," he said, checking his scanner. "They'll search the canyons eventually." "They're already here," Nari whispered. "I can feel them. Taemin's telepathy. It's like ice on my mind." Dohyun looked at her. "Can he find you?" "Through your mind?" "Not yet. I'm too weak to broadcast much of a signal, and I was never good at telepathy anyway. That's what made me worthless, remember?" She said it without bitterness now, just stating a fact. "Stop that," Dohyun said. "You're not worthless. Say it." "What?" "Say I'm not worthless out loud." Nari looked at him like he was crazy. "Why does it matter?" "Because words have power. If you keep saying you're worthless, you'll believe it. And I need you to believe you're worth saving. So say it." Nari was quiet for a long moment. Then very softly she said, "I'm not worthless." Louder, "I'm not worthless." Stronger this time. "Good. Remember that." Dohyun stood up and looked outside. The red sky was darkening. Night was coming. "We'll rest here tonight. Tomorrow we'll move deeper into the canyon system." But tomorrow came sooner than expected. Dohyun woke to the sound of engines. He grabbed his scanner and checked it. 3 figures were approaching the cave system. On foot, they knew. Somehow they knew. "Nari, wake up," he whispered urgently. She opened her eyes. "They found us?" "Yes, we need to go, now." They grabbed their supplies and headed deeper into the caves. Dohyun turned on his headlamp, the weak light barely pushing back the darkness. Behind them, he could hear voices echoing off the stone walls. "Nari!" The voice was smooth and cold. "Little sister, we know you're here. Come out. Make this easier on yourself." Nari's hand grabbed Dohyun's arm. "That's Taemin," she breathed. "Keep moving," Dohyun said, but the caves only went so deep. After 10 minutes of running, they hit a dead end. Solid rock. "No way out." "No, no, no," Dohyun said, checking the walls frantically. There had to be another passage. Some crack or opening, but there was nothing. The footsteps behind them grew louder. Light appeared around the corner. 3 figures stepped into the chamber. The first was tall and slender, with pale blue skin like Nari's. His eyes glowed with purple light. His face was handsome but cruel. Everything about him radiated power and confidence. Taemin Doi. The second was broader, more muscular. His face was scarred, and he carried a weapon openly. This had to be Jinho, the enforcer. The third was younger, maybe in his early 20s. He looked uncomfortable, his eyes darting around nervously. "Woojin, the youngest brother?" "There you are," Taemin said, smiling. It didn't reach his eyes. "You've caused us quite a bit of trouble, little sister. We've spent 2 weeks searching this miserable planet." "Stay away from her," Dohyun said, stepping in front of Nari. Taemin's glowing eyes fixed on him. "And who are you?" "The human who dug up our mistake?" "She's not a mistake. She's a person," Jinho laughed. It was an ugly sound. "It talks. How cute." "Nari, come here," Taemin said, ignoring Dohyun. "We'll finish this quickly. It won't hurt much." Nari pressed against the wall behind Dohyun. "No," she said. Her voice shook, but she said it. Taemin's smile disappeared. "I wasn't asking." His eyes blazed brighter. "Come here now," Nari screamed. She grabbed her head, falling to her knees. Dohyun could see tears streaming down her face. "Stop it," he shouted. "You're hurting her." "That's the point," Taemin said casually. His telepathy was forcing Nari to obey. She started crawling toward him, sobbing, her body moving against her will. Dohyun didn't think. He just acted. He grabbed a rock from the ground and threw it as hard as he could. It hit Taemin in the face. The telepathic assault stopped immediately. Taemin stumbled back, his hand going to his bleeding nose. For a moment, everyone was silent. Then Taemin's face twisted with rage. "You dare," he hissed. "You insignificant, worthless human. I will tear your mind apart." Dohyun felt it then. The telepathy. It was like knives stabbing into his brain. Images flooded his mind. The accident on Helios Station. His debts. His failures. Every bad memory, every moment of pain, all amplified 1,000 times. He screamed, fell to his knees. The pain was unbearable. Worse than anything physical. It was like his soul was being ripped apart. Do-Yun, Nari's voice seemed far away. This is what happens when humans interfere in Velthian affairs, Taemin said. His voice echoed in Do-Hyun's mind. You should have left her buried. Now you'll die screaming. But even through the pain, Do-Hyun held on to one thought, one memory. Nari's face when she'd smiled in his habitat, that small, fragile smile. The first sign of hope he'd seen in her eyes. He wouldn't let them take that away. With every bit of strength he had left, Do-Hyun pushed back. He didn't have telepathy, but he had stubbornness, human stubbornness, the kind that had taken his species from caves to the stars, the kind that refused to quit even when quitting made sense. No, he gasped. Taemin's eyes widened slightly. What? I said no. Do-Hyun forced himself to his feet. Blood dripped from his nose and ears. His whole body shook. But he stood. You don't get to win. Not this time. Impossible, Taemin said. You're human. You have no telepathic resistance. My power should have destroyed your mind by now. Maybe, Do-Hyun said, swaying on his feet. But I've already lost everything. My career, my money, my reputation, my future. You can't take anything else from me because I have nothing left. He looked at Nari, still crying on the ground, except her. And I won't let you take her. Jinho raised his weapon. Enough of this. I'll just shoot him. No, Taemin said. I want to break him properly. Make him an example. His eyes blazed even brighter. The pain intensified. Do-Hyun felt his legs give out. He was going to die here. He knew that now. But maybe he could buy Nari some time. Maybe she could run while they were focused on him. Then something happened. Nari screamed. But this time it wasn't pain. It was rage. A wave of force exploded from her body, invisible but powerful. It threw Taemin and Jinho backward into the cave wall. Even Wu Jin stumbled. Do-Hyun felt the telepathic assault vanish. He gasped for air, his mind his own again. Nari stood up. Her eyes were glowing. Bright violet light filled the cave. Don't touch him, she said. Her voice echoed strangely, as if multiple voices spoke at once. Taemin pulled himself up, looking shocked. How are you doing this? You're defective, powerless. Maybe I was, Nari said. The light around her grew brighter. Or maybe you were just too blind to see what I could do. You tested me for mind reading. For manipulation. But you never tested me for this, she raised her hand. The air around her shimmered, a shield. A telepathic shield that pushed against anyone who got close. Impossible, Taemin breathed. Humans have a saying, Nari said, glancing at Do-Hyun. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You buried me, left me to die, but I survived, and surviving changed me. Jinho fired his weapon. The energy bolt hit Nari's shield and deflected harmlessly into the wall. Do-Hyun used the distraction to grab Nari's hand. We need to run. You can't hold them forever, she nodded. The shield flickered but held. Together they ran back through the caves while Taemin screamed orders behind them. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't have a plan. But they were alive. They were together. And they were still fighting. Sometimes that was enough. The girl slept for 3 days. Do-Hyun barely left her side. He changed her IV bags, cleaned her wounds, and tried to get her to drink water whenever she stirred. The ship in orbit had moved on after the first night, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they'd be back. On the morning of the 4th day, she opened her eyes again. This time they didn't glow. They were just normal eyes, purple like most Velthian, but softer somehow, frightened. Where am I? She asked. Her voice was rough from disuse. My habitat, on Kethera. You're safe, Do-Hyun said. He kept his distance, not wanting to scare her. I found you buried in the desert. Do you remember what happened? The girl's face went pale. Her hands clutched the blanket. They found me. No, I found you. I'm a surveyor. I was scanning for minerals and picked up your biological signature. She stared at him for a long moment. Then tears started rolling down her cheeks. You saved me, she whispered. Why? It was such a strange question. Because you needed help. Can you tell me your name? Nari. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I'm Nari. I'm Do-Hyun, human, Earth colony originally. Do you remember how you ended up buried? Nari's whole body started shaking. Do-hyun grabbed a cup of water and handed it to her. She drank slowly, her hands trembling. My brothers, she said finally, and my sister. They did this. Do-hyun felt his stomach drop. Your family? Yes. Nari's voice was flat, empty. Taemin, Jinho, Woojin, and Hana, my older siblings. They brought me to this planet 2 weeks ago. They said we were going on a trip. I was stupid enough to believe them. She took another sip of water. Her eyes were distant, seeing something Do-hyun couldn't see. When we landed, Taemin told me the truth. He said I was an embarrassment, that I was worthless, that I didn't deserve to live. Her voice cracked. Then Jinho tied my hands. Hana gagged me. Woojin dug the hole, and Taemin... She couldn't finish. Taemin buried you, Do-hyun said quietly. She nodded. I tried to scream. Tried to fight, but I'm weak. My telepathy doesn't work right. I was born defective. She said the word like it was poison. In our culture, telepathic strength is everything. My siblings are all powerful, but me? I can barely feel surface thoughts. I'm useless. Do-hyun felt anger building in his chest again. So they decided to kill you? Our parents died 6 months ago. Shuttle accident. They left us money, property, and trading contracts. But having a defective sister ruins my siblings' reputation. They can't make good marriages or business deals with me attached to the family name. So they decided to fix the problem by murdering you, by erasing me. Nari looked at him with those sad purple eyes. No one would question it. I'm 16. Still legally their dependent. They told everyone I ran away. Went to join some colony on the outer rim. No one cared enough to investigate. Why would they? I'm just the defective youngest child. Do-hyun sat down heavily in his chair. He'd heard stories about alien cultures with harsh traditions, but this was different. This wasn't some ancient ritual or cultural misunderstanding. This was cold-blooded murder for money and reputation. How did you survive so long? He asked. I don't know. Maybe my defect saved me. Maybe being weak telepathically made me better at conserving energy. I fell unconscious after the first day. The next things I remember are pieces, darkness, pain, the weight of the sand. I thought I was dead. I thought I was already in whatever afterlife my people believe in. You're not dead, Do-hyun said firmly. You're alive, and you're safe here. Nari laughed. It was a bitter sound. Safe for how long? My siblings have connections everywhere. They trade with merchants, pirates, and mercenary groups. They have money and power. If they find out I survived, they won't, Do-hyun said, trying to sound confident. This planet is remote. No one knows you're here except me. You don't understand. Nari closed her eyes. Taemin is powerful, not just rich. His telepathy can search minds from orbit. If he gets close enough, he'll know you found me. He'll know you saved me, and then he'll kill us both. Do-hyun felt cold despite the heat of the habitat. What do we do? Run, Nari said. You need to run. Leave me here and get as far away as you can. Maybe if they find me alone, they'll just finish what they started and leave you alone. No. What? I said no. Do-hyun stood up. I'm not leaving you. And I'm not letting them kill you. Why? Nari's voice rose. Why would you risk your life for me? You don't even know me. I'm nothing. Nobody, just a defective alien who should have died weeks ago. Stop calling yourself that, Do-hyun snapped. You're not defective. You're not worthless. You're a person. And what your siblings did was wrong. Evil. And I'm not going to let evil win. Not this time. Nari stared at him. You're crazy. You'll get killed. Maybe. But at least I'll die doing something that matters. Do-hyun started packing supplies. We need to move. Can you walk? I think so. But where will we go? The canyon systems. I did surveys there last month. Lots of caves and hiding places. We can stay out of sight while I figure out our next move. They'll track you. Your vehicle has a transponder. Then we'll leave it here and go on foot. I have camping gear. Water purifiers. We can survive. Nari slowly stood up. Her legs shook, but she stayed upright. Why are you doing this? She asked again, softer this time. Do-hyun stopped packing and looked at her. Really looked at her. She was so young, so broken, and so completely convinced she deserved what had happened to her. Because someone should have helped me, he said quietly, when I lost everything. When everyone turned their backs on me, someone should have stood up and said, this isn't right. But no one did. So I became this. He gestured at his shabby habitat, his worn clothes. I became a coward who stopped fighting. He picked up his pack. But maybe I can still help you. Maybe I can still do one good thing, and maybe that's enough. Nari's eyes filled with tears again, but this time she smiled. It was small and fragile, but it was real. Thank you, she whispered. Do-Hyun's communication terminal started beeping. Both of them froze. He walked over and checked the screen. 3 ships had just entered orbit. Large ones. Military grade. They were running deep scans of the entire region. They're here, Nari said. Her voice was hollow. Do-Hyun grabbed his pack and threw it over his shoulder. Then we better start running. They left the habitat just as the first ship began its descent. The red desert stretched before them, and somewhere in those endless canyons was a chance at survival. It wasn't much of a chance. But it was something. And for 2 people who had nothing left to lose, something was enough. The red sand stretched endlessly in every direction. Do-Hyun wiped the sweat from his forehead and checked his scanner again. Nothing, just like the last 3 hours. Just like the last 3 days. He kicked at a rock and watched it tumble down the slope. This planet, Cathara, was supposed to be his fresh start. The job posting had promised good pay for simple mineral surveys. What it hadn't mentioned was that the equipment would be ancient, the heat would be unbearable, and the chances of finding anything valuable were almost 0. But Do-Hyun couldn't complain. Nobody else would hire him. Not after what happened on Helios Station. The accident had destroyed 3 drilling rigs and cost the company millions. It wasn't his fault, but the lawyers didn't care about fault. They cared about blame, and Do-Hyun was an easy target. Now he was 32 years old, broke and desperate. He lived in a habitat module that leaked air and ate nutrient paste that tasted like cardboard. His only company was the howling wind that never seemed to stop. The scanner beeped. Do-Hyun stopped walking. He looked at the screen. There was something below the surface. Not minerals, something else. The reading showed biological signatures. That was strange. Cathara didn't have any native life forms. The planet was dead except for the occasional survey team or mining crew. But the scanner was definite. Something alive was buried under the sand about 3 meters down. Do-Hyun grabbed his shovel. Maybe it was some kind of equipment malfunction. Maybe his scanner was picking up old organic waste from a previous crew. But something made him dig anyway. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe he just needed something different to happen. He dug for 20 minutes before his shovel hit something solid. Not rock, something smooth. He dropped to his knees and started clearing sand with his hands. Stones, arranged in a pattern. Someone had deliberately placed them here. His heart started beating faster. He worked more quickly now, pulling away sand and rocks. The biological signatures were getting stronger on his scanner. Whatever was down here, it was still alive. Then he saw the cloth. Dirty and torn, but definitely fabric. He grabbed it and pulled. More sand fell away, and suddenly he was looking at a hand. Small, delicate, blue. Oh no, Do-Hyun whispered. He dug frantically now, throwing sand everywhere. A face appeared. A young face. Alien. Female. Her skin was pale blue with darker patterns running along her cheeks. Her eyes were closed. Her lips were cracked and bleeding. She was a Velthine. Do-Hyun had seen their species before at trading posts. They were known for being telepathic. Powerful traders and negotiators. But this one looked nothing like the proud, confident Velthine he'd encountered before. This one looked like she was dying. Her hands were tied behind her back with rough rope. A cloth gag covered her mouth. Someone had done this to her. Someone had buried her alive. Do-Hyun's hands shook as he cut the ropes with his knife. He removed the gag as gently as he could. The girl didn't move. He pressed his fingers to her neck, searching for a pulse. There. Weak. Barely there. But alive, he couldn't carry her and his equipment. He made the choice in seconds. Equipment could be replaced. He scooped the girl into his arms. She weighed almost nothing. Her body was cold despite the heat of the desert. The walk back to his habitat took 40 minutes. Every step felt like an hour. The girl never moved. Never opened her eyes. Do-Hyun kept checking to make sure she was still breathing. Finally, he reached his small habitat module. It wasn't much. One room with a sleeping pad, a water recycler, a food processor, and a medical kit that he hoped would be enough. He laid the girl on his sleeping pad and grabbed the medical kit. Water first. He held a cup to her lips and let a few drops fall into her mouth. She coughed weakly. Good. Swallowing reflex still worked. He gave her a little more, then he checked her body for injuries. Bruises covered her arms and legs. Some were old, faded yellow and green. Others were fresh, dark purple and black. Her ribs showed through her skin. She'd been starved, but the worst were the marks on her wrists. The rope had cut deep. The wounds were infected. How long had she been tied up? How long had she been buried? Do-hyun cleaned the wounds and applied antibiotic gel. He set up an IV drip to get fluids into her system. Then he covered her with his only blanket and sat back. Who had done this? Why, the Velthine were supposed to be civilized. They had laws, culture, and honor codes. What kind of person would bury a young girl alive? He should report this. Contact the authorities. But something stopped him. What if the people who did this were powerful? What if they had connections? What if reporting this got him killed? Do-hyun rubbed his face. When had he become such a coward? A girl had been buried alive. She needed help. She needed protection, and he was worried about his own skin. He looked at her again. She was so young. 16 maybe, 17 at most. Someone's daughter. Someone's sister. And someone had decided she deserved to die alone in the dark, suffocating slowly under tons of sand. Anger burned in his chest, hot and fierce. He'd felt powerless for so long. Ever since the accident. Ever since he'd lost everything. But maybe he could do something here. Maybe he could help this one person. Hours passed. The twin suns of Cathara set, plunging the habitat into darkness. Do-hyun sat in his chair, watching the girl breathe. The IV bag slowly emptied. Her chest rose and fell, then her eyes opened. They glowed. Bright violet light filled the small habitat. Do-hyun jumped to his feet, his heart hammering. The girl stared at him. Her glowing eyes were wide with terror. Her mouth opened. Her voice was barely a whisper, hoarse and broken. Run. Then her eyes rolled back and she collapsed onto the sleeping pad again. Do-hyun stood frozen. Run from what? From whom? His communication terminal beeped. He walked over to it, his legs feeling weak. The screen showed an incoming scan. Someone was checking his habitat from orbit. A ship. Running full sensor sweeps. Someone was looking for something, or someone. Do-hyun looked at the unconscious girl on his sleeping pad. He looked at the terminal showing the ship in orbit. He looked at his hands still stained with red sand and her blood. What have I gotten myself into? He whispered to the empty room. They ran through the darkness until Nari's shield finally collapsed. She fell against the cave wall, gasping for air. The glow in her eyes faded, leaving her looking small and exhausted again. I can't. Keep it up, she panted. Too much energy. Do-hyun checked his scanner. Bad news, very bad news. They called in reinforcements. 6 mercenaries plus your brothers, and they're blocking the only way out of the canyon. Then we're trapped. Not yet. Do-hyun's mind raced. He'd spent a month surveying these canyons. He knew something Taemin didn't. About 2 kilometers ahead was an old mining station, abandoned, unstable, and potentially useful. Can you walk? He asked Nari. She nodded. I think so. They moved as quickly as they could through the caves. Behind them, they could hear voices and footsteps. The search party was spreading out, covering every possible exit. Professional. Organized. This was going to end badly, unless Do-hyun thought of something clever. The mining station appeared after an hour of painful climbing. It was built into the canyon wall, half collapsed and covered in rust. Warning signs in 3 languages told people to stay away. The structure was unsafe. The power core was degraded. One wrong move could cause an explosion. Perfect, inside, Do-hyun said. Quickly, the station was dark and cold. Old equipment lay scattered around. Computer terminals were dead. But in the center of the main room was what Do-hyun had hoped to find. The power core, old, unstable, and still containing a massive amount of energy. What are you thinking? Nari asked. Something stupid, Do-hyun admitted. He pulled out his tools and started examining the core. This station was abandoned because the power core became unstable. Too dangerous to fix, but that means it still has power. A lot of power. You want to blow it up? Not exactly. I want to rig it so I can blow it up when I choose to. Turn this whole place into a bomb. Then we use it as leverage. That's insane. You have a better idea? Nari was quiet. No. Do-hyun worked quickly. His hands remembered the training from years ago before the accident. Before everything went wrong, he rerouted power, disconnected safety protocols, and rigged a manual trigger. 30 minutes later, he had a bomb. Not a sophisticated one, but it would work. There, he said, wiping sweat from his face. Now we wait. They didn't wait long. Footsteps echoed through the station. Multiple sets. The mercenaries had found them. 6 figures in combat armor entered the main room. They carried serious weapons. Military grade. These weren't just hired thugs. These were professionals. Drop your weapons and surrender, the lead mercenary said. Her voice was amplified by her helmet. You're surrounded. There's no escape. Do-hyun held up his makeshift trigger, a simple device connected by wire to the power core. Actually, there is. See that power core? I've rigged it to explode. All I have to do is press this button. We all die together. The mercenaries stopped. Their leader studied the core, then looked at her scanner. He's not bluffing. That core could level half the canyon. Then shoot him before he can press it, came Taemin's voice. He stepped into the room with his brothers. His face was still bleeding from where Do-hyun's rock had hit him. He looked angry. Very angry. I'm faster than you think, Do-hyun said. His thumb hovered over the button. One twitch and we're all dead. You won't do it, Taemin said confidently. Humans are cowards. You'll surrender rather than die. You don't know much about humans, do you? Do-hyun asked. He was surprised by how calm his voice sounded. We're the species that walked out of caves with sharp sticks and decided to hunt animals 10 times our size. We're the species that looked at the stars and said, let's go there, before we even had the technology to do it. You think we're afraid of dying? We invented stubbornness. Jinho moved closer, his weapon raised. Big talk for a worthless surveyor. Maybe I am worthless, Do-hyun said. But here's the thing about worthless humans. We have nothing to lose, and that makes us dangerous. He looked at Taemin. You tried to kill your sister because she was defective, because she didn't fit your perfect family image. You buried her alive like she was garbage, and you thought that was acceptable. She is garbage, Taemin said coldly. Weak, useless, an embarrassment. No, Do-hyun said. She's a person. A young girl who deserved a family that loved her, and you took that away from her. You took everything. But you know what? She survived. She's stronger than you think. Stronger than you'll ever be. Touching speech, Taemin said. But meaningless. You're going to die here, human. Both of you. Whether by explosion or by execution, the result is the same. Maybe. But at least I'll die knowing I tried to help someone. What will you die for? Money? Reputation? That's not strength. That's just selfishness wrapped in arrogance. Taemin's eyes blazed with telepathic light. I'm going to enjoy breaking you. The telepathic assault hit Do-hyun like a hammer. Pain exploded through his mind. But this time he was ready. He'd felt it before. He knew what to expect. And humans were adaptable. They learned quickly. He focused on one thought. Just one, Nari's smile. That fragile, hopeful smile. He held on to it like an anchor. The pain continued, but he didn't fall. Didn't scream. Just stood there, thumb on the trigger, teeth gritted. Impossible, Taemin gasped. Sweat appeared on his forehead. How are you resisting? Because someone has to, Do-hyun said through the pain. Someone has to stand up and say enough. And if that someone has to be a worthless human surveyor, then so be it. Then Nari moved. She'd been quiet, still, seemingly helpless. But now her eyes opened. They glowed again. Not as bright as before, but steady. She didn't attack. She didn't create a shield. Instead, she did something different. She touched Jinho's mind. The big mercenary suddenly screamed. He dropped his weapon and clutched his head. The sound he made was horrible. Terrified, like a child having a nightmare. What are you doing to him? Taemin demanded. Showing him the truth, Nari said quietly. Her voice was sad. I can't read minds well. I can't control people. But I can share feelings, emotions. And I'm sharing with him exactly how I felt when you buried me. The fear, the pain, the loneliness, everything. Jinho collapsed to the floor, sobbing. The hardened mercenary cried like a baby, experiencing the full horror of what had been done to Nari. Taemin's telepathic assault on Do-hyun stopped. He stared at his sister. That's your power, empathy? That's what you can do? Yes, Nari said. Not very useful for business deals or negotiations, but perfect for making people understand what they've done. She looked at Wu Jin. The youngest brother had been quiet through all of this, standing in the back. Now his face was pale. "Did you know?" she asked him. "Did you know I could feel everything? Every moment buried in the dark?" Wu Jin's eyes filled with tears. I told them it was wrong. I said we shouldn't do it. But they didn't listen, and I was too weak to stop them." "You dug the hole," Nari said. "You put me in it." "I know," Wu Jin's voice broke. "I know, and I'll never forgive myself." For a long moment, no one moved. Jinho continued sobbing on the floor. Taemin looked between his sister and the sobbing Jinho, his confident expression cracking. The mercenaries stood uncertain, their weapons still pointed but their resolve wavering. Do-hyun kept his thumb on the trigger. "Here's what's going to happen," he said. "Nari and I are walking out of here. You're going to let us go, and you're never going to come after her again." "Or what?" Taemin asked. But his voice had lost its edge. "Or I press this button and we all meet whatever gods you believe in. And honestly, after everything I've seen today, I'm fine with that." Taemin looked at the power core, at Do-hyun's steady hand, at his sister's glowing eyes, at Jinho still curled on the floor crying. "You're bluffing," he said, but he didn't sound sure anymore. "Try me," Do-hyun said. The silence stretched. Tense. Dangerous. One wrong move and everything would end in fire and death. Then Wu Jin spoke. "Let them go." Taemin turned to him. "What?" "Let them go," Wu Jin repeated. He looked at Nari. "I can't undo what I did. I can't take back putting you in that hole. But I can stop you from going back into one. Let her go, please. She's our sister." "She's nothing," Taemin snarled. "She's everything we're not," Wu Jin said. "She's kind, brave. Human might be weak, but she survived. With nothing but hope and help from a stranger, she survived. That's more strength than we'll ever have." Taemin's face twisted with rage and something else, something that might have been shame. "Fine," he spat. "Go, run, but don't think this is over." "It is," Wu Jin said firmly. He looked at Do-hyun. "I'll make sure of it. I have recordings. Evidence of what we did. I'll turn it over to the authorities. Nari will get her inheritance. Her freedom, and we'll get what we deserve." Do-hyun and Nari backed toward the door. He kept the trigger visible. They moved slowly, carefully until they were outside the station. Then they ran. Behind them they heard arguing voices. A single gunshot, then silence. They didn't stop running until they reached Do-hyun's vehicle, abandoned near his habitat. They climbed in and launched into the sky as fast as the old engines could manage. Only when they broke atmosphere did Do-hyun finally let himself breathe. "We made it," he said. Nari looked at him. "You really would have done it." "Press the button." "Yes," Do-hyun said honestly. "I would have. Why?" "Because you're worth it." "And someone needed to tell you that." Nari started crying again. But this time they were different tears. Not pain, not fear, relief. They were alive. They were free. And for the first time in her life, Nari understood what it meant to be valued. Not for the explosion was visible from orbit. Do-hyun and Nari watched through the rear cameras as the mining station erupted in a ball of fire. The blast tore through the canyon, sending rocks and debris into the sky. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Did they make it out?" Nari asked quietly. "I don't know," Do-hyun said. He felt numb. He'd been willing to press that button, willing to die and take everyone with him. The weight of that decision was only now hitting him. "Wu Jin stayed," Nari said. "I felt it. In those last moments. He wanted to stay, to face what he'd done. And the others?" Taemin ran. Jinho was still broken. The mercenaries scattered. I don't know if they made it out in time. They flew in silence for several minutes. Do-hyun's hand shook on the controls. Adrenaline was wearing off, leaving behind exhaustion and pain. His head still throbbed from the telepathic attacks. Blood had dried under his nose and around his ears. "Where are we going?" Nari asked. "Way Station Mira, it's a neutral port. 3 days away. We can contact authorities there, get you proper help. Legal protection, and you?" Do-hyun smiled tiredly. "I'll probably get arrested for destroying that mining station. Maybe for kidnapping an alien miner. Who knows? But at least you'll be safe." "No, what?" Nari's eyes blazed with sudden determination. "No, you're not getting arrested. You saved my life. I won't let them punish you for that. Nari, the law doesn't care about intentions. I destroyed property. Endangered lives. There will be consequences. Then I'll face them with you. She crossed her arms. We're in this together now, partners. Despite everything, Do-hyun laughed. Partners? I'm a broke surveyor with a criminal record. You're a wealthy heiress with powerful enemies. What kind of partnership is that? The kind that works, Nari said firmly. You taught me something, Do-hyun. You taught me that worth isn't about power or perfection. It's about choosing to do right even when it's hard, even when it costs everything. I want to keep learning that. From you. Do-hyun didn't know what to say. For 3 days, he'd focused entirely on keeping Nari alive. He hadn't thought past that. Hadn't planned for success. Now that they were safe, he felt lost. We'll figure it out, he said finally. Together. The journey to Waystation Mira was quiet. They slept in shifts, ate the last of the supplies. Do-hyun's scanner picked up occasional ships, but none pursued them. Either they weren't being followed, or whoever was following was being subtle about it. On the 3rd day, messages started coming through. Dozens of them, all addressed to Nari. She opened them hesitantly. Her face went through a range of emotions as she read. Shock, disbelief, sadness, then something else, something that looked like hope. What is it? Do-hyun asked. Woojin, she said. He sent files, evidence, recordings of everything. Taemin ordering my burial, Jinho tying me up, everything. Her voice shook. He exposed them all. Sent it to the authorities, the media, everyone. She pulled up a news article on the screen. The headline read, Wealthy Velthine heirs charged with attempted murder of sister. The Galactic courts have issued arrest warrants, Nari read aloud. Taemin and Jinho are wanted criminals. Hana turned herself in. She's cooperating with investigators. She scrolled down. And Woojin? He died in the explosion. He stayed behind to make sure his message got out. To make sure I would be safe. Nari's hands trembled. He killed himself. For me? No, Do-hyun said gently. He died to fix what he'd done. To give you justice. That was his choice. His way of saying sorry. I never wanted this, Nari whispered. I just wanted a family that loved me. I know. They held each other as the ship carried them toward Waystation Mira. 2 broken people, scarred by cruelty, held together by kindness. Waystation Mira appeared on their screens 12 hours later, a massive structure floating in space, home to thousands of species and millions of beings. Neutral territory. Safe territory. Do-hyun landed at a public dock. As soon as they exited the ship, they were met by officials. Velthine legal representatives, human advocacy groups. Everyone wanted to talk to Nari. Everyone had questions, but there were also friends. A Velthine woman introduced herself as Somin, a cousin Nari had never met. Your parents talked about you, she said softly. They loved you. They didn't care about your telepathy being different. They thought you were perfect. She handed Nari a data chip. These are messages they recorded for you. Before they died. They wanted you to have them. Nari clutched the chip to her chest and cried. Over the following days, everything unfolded quickly. Galactic lawyers reviewed Woojin's evidence. The case against Taemin and Jinho was airtight. They would spend decades in prison if caught. Hana received a lighter sentence due to her cooperation, but she would never be free of what she'd done. Nari's inheritance was secured. Millions in credits. Trading contracts. Properties across 3 sectors. She was wealthy beyond measure, but Do-hyun noticed she didn't smile much. The money didn't matter to her. Not really. One evening, as they sat in a rented room overlooking the station, Nari finally spoke what was on her mind. What happens now? She asked. You're rich, safe, you can do anything you want. Go anywhere, and you? Do-hyun shrugged. Back to surveying, I guess. If anyone will hire me. Otherwise, I'll find something else. I always do. That's stupid. Excuse me? Nari turned to face him. You saved my life. You risked everything for a stranger. You taught me what it means to be valued. And now you're just going to go back to being alone? Struggling? That's stupid. What else can I do? Stay with me. Nari's voice was urgent. Be my partner, for real. I have money but no direction. You have experience but no resources. Together we could do something meaningful. Like what? Help people. Others like me. People that families give up on. People that societies ignore. There are millions of beings across the galaxy who need someone to say you're worth saving. We could be those people. Do-hyun stared at her. You want to start a rescue service? Yes, a small one at first. Just us, but we could grow. We could make a difference. actually matter. She grabbed his hands. You told me I'm not worthless. Let me prove that's true. Let me use my wealth for something good. With your help. Do-hyun felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. Hope. Real hope. For the first time in years, he saw a future that didn't look bleak. You're serious about this? He asked, completely. Partners. Equals. We save people that everyone else has given up on. What do you say? Do-hyun smiled. A real smile. I say yes, partners. They shook hands. Then Nari hugged him. Do-hyun hugged her back. This girl who'd been buried alive and risen stronger. This 16-year-old who'd survived hell and chose to turn her pain into purpose. They spent the next 3 months planning. They bought a ship. Better than Do-hyun's old surveying vessel, but not flashy. Practical, reliable. They hired a small crew. A medic, a pilot, a technician. Good people who believed in second chances. They called their service Second Chance Rescue. The name was simple but meaningful. Everyone deserved a second chance. Everyone deserved to be saved. Their first mission came from a distress signal near the outer rim. A child was being abused by their caretakers. Local authorities wouldn't intervene due to cultural differences. No one else would help, but Do-hyun and Nari would. As their ship approached the station, Nari looked at Do-hyun. She was wearing practical clothes now. Her hair was tied back. She looked older somehow. Stronger. The scared girl in the grave was gone, replaced by someone determined and brave. Ready? Do-hyun asked. Always, Nari replied. They docked at the station. The crew prepared equipment. Nari checked her telepathic shields. Do-hyun loaded his tools just in case things got complicated. Before they left the ship, Do-hyun paused. Thank you, he said, for what? For giving me a reason to keep going. For showing me that good things can still happen. For being worth saving, Nari smiled. That fragile smile from weeks ago was gone. This one was confident, real, beautiful. You saved me first, she said. I'm just returning the favor. Every day, for the rest of our lives. They walked down the ramp together. 2 survivors. 2 fighters. 2 people who'd been thrown away and decided to prove the galaxy wrong. Behind them, their crew followed. Good people. Brave people. People who believed that everyone deserved to be valued. The station was busy. Crowded with aliens of every species. No one paid attention to the small group walking through the corridors. No one knew they were witnessing the beginning of something important. Because sometimes the most meaningful revolutions start small, with one person choosing to help another, with one human deciding that a buried alien girl deserved to live, with one act of kindness that ripples outward, touching lives, changing futures, proving that worth isn't measured in power or perfection. It's measured in choice. The choice to see someone suffering and say, not on my watch. Do-hyun and Nari made that choice. And they would keep making it. Again and again. For as long as it took. For as many people as needed, because everyone deserved to be saved. Everyone deserved a second chance. And in a galaxy that often forgot that simple truth, they would be the ones to remember.